Hey guys, so welcome back to Axolotl Mafia. Today I wanted to make a video on some myths and misconceptions regarding axolotls, and I really felt I needed to make this video because I see a lot of mishandling of this little creature on YouTube, and it really upsets me. I think that some of the ideas that people have, I think they have good intention, but it's uneducated. And the first misconception I want to get into is that axolotls don't need or require cold water, and that's not true. They need cold water. This is my aquarium chiller. It's at 16.8 Celsius, which is at 62.2 degrees Fahrenheit. They absolutely need cold water. They prefer water in the low 60s. So another misconception is that they need water in the mid 60s, and they don't do as well as they would do in lower 60s. I've raised axolotls in both the low 60s and mid 60s, and I've found that the axolotls that are raised in the low 60s just thrive better. They just do better. They're more active. It's kind of like, you have to think of it kind of like an axolotl. If you think about yourself, what kind of temperature do you prefer? Let's say that your happiness temperature is like 70. You're most comfortable there because it's not too cold and it's not hot. So you're going to thrive. You're going to be happy. You're going to be probably the most active in that temperature. You're not going to feel stressed or getting sad or depressed because you're comfortable. And axolotls, they want to be in a temperature where they're comfortable too. So if they're most comfortable in the low 60s, why would they be comfortable in the mid 60s or in the 70s? And anything that goes into the 70s can actually kill them and ruin their metabolism. So that's the first misconception. And really, the best way to go is to get an aquarium chiller. It's a consistent temperature. The only fluctuation that really happens with the chiller is like on a hot day, for example, if it's like 90 degrees or 100 degrees outside, and your AC inside, or if you don't have AC, and you just have fans, it's going to be really hot, and of course that'll put some pressure on the chiller, but ultimately it'll just be like a degree or two difference. So it's not putting too much stress on the axolotls, and they'll enjoy it. My axolotls are very active because they enjoy their water temperature, and they are also inactive a lot. They'll sleep comfortably, like Lofty, for example. He loves to sleep, or she does. I don't know the gender yet, but Lofty is active right now. But Lofty spends a lot of time sleeping and just enjoying the tank. And yeah, that's the first misconception, that they don't need cold water. And I have seen so many people on YouTube that have axolotls, and they'll make axolotl videos, but they'll tell you that they keep their axolotl cold, but then they don't go about showing you how they're keeping their axolotl cold. And they'll show the tank, but then there won't be any fan connected. There won't be any water bottles in the tank. It'll be clear by the way that the axolotl looks, that they're not happy in their water temperature. They won't be very active. Their gills won't look particularly nice, and they might have some eating issues. They might be picky about eating. My axolotls typically aren't picky. They get picky if the worm is too big that I've cut up for them, or if they're just too full. I also provide them like a day where they fast. It's just good for their digestion, and so that's the first misconception, that they don't need cold water. And another misconception is lighting. This one just makes me laugh. So axolotls aren't stupid, despite some people thinking that they are. They're not stupid. They are a creature of habit, and they are also a creature that is capable of memory and remembering things. So they also can tell the difference between light and dark. And despite not having eyelids, if you provide enough dark spaces in the tank, like dark, shady spots in the tank, and you run your plant light, for example, for about 5 to 6 hours, they have the option and intelligence to go into those shady spots and get away from the light. I have found that my axolotls, from all of the years of experience that I have with axolotls, it seems that they have depression if they're kept in darkness or kept in a spot that doesn't provide them any sort of ambient lighting. And despite the way they are, and coming from Lake Xochimilco, Lake Xochimilco wasn't underground. It wasn't like with the Olm species, another species of salamander that was completely blind and cave dwelling. They have eyes, they detect light, and they come from a lake that had sunlight over it. They like light. And if they don't, they will hide from it. I think it's important to provide them some lighting, and I've noticed that they love to come and interact at the front of the glass if there's some kind of lighting, be it natural lighting or just like a gentle LED plant light, things like that. They're happy. So to me, that's a very big misconception that they don't like light or that it's going to destroy them. Fish don't have eyelids. Fish aren't equipped to have light on constantly, but they require sunlight. They require lighting. Otherwise, they wouldn't have eyes, like the blind cave tetra, for example. So I would suggest having some kind of lighting for your axolotls, but provide lots of dark little corridors, little spots that they can get away from the light, and don't keep the light on too long. Just keep it on long enough that the plants are getting some nutrition from the light, and enough that the axolotls are enjoying it and getting that exposure. So another misconception is water current, that axolotls shouldn't have any sort of water current in their tank, and I again don't agree with that. Water current helps provide a flow. Should it be a strong current? No. Like for example, a strong current would be like in a reef tank, or like a canister filter with the power spray bar, those kind of things. I'm not suggesting anything like that. I'm suggesting a current that is kind enough and sweet enough that it's providing some gentle flow through the tank. My axolotls are clearly not stressed by their water flow. Their gills are beautiful, relaxed. I don't know where Lofty went. Freaking Lofty. But like Shoulder, for example, gills are super relaxed. You may notice that they're not surfacing for air as often. Axolotls do have a 4-way breathing system, and I literally mean that. They do have a 4-way breathing system, which I'll get into hopefully another time. But like their gills, for example, if they're happy and relaxed, you can see it in their gills, and he's or she is very happy and relaxed. Naomi's eating, always eating. So Naomi has some dirt on their head. It's funny. Got it from the food. But that is definitely a misconception in my experience and in my opinion. And of course, these are my opinions. So this is brown algae, and I explained in my previous video why my tank has that. It's because of the silicates in the sand, and eventually it'll ride itself out, especially with the plants. Live plants are really good at helping getting rid of silicates. But I have a UV filter back here. It has a little light. I don't know if I can... Yeah, it's not easy to pick up, but this UV filter helps get it. I've never had a green algae bloom of any sort in this tank. This tank has only had experienced the brown algae blooms from the sand silicate, and that UV filter actually helps get rid of that. It works especially and specifically with free-floating diatoms. So any diatoms that land on the leaves, then I have to scrub them. But this UV filter has quite a kick to the flow. So what I do is I got like a little sponge, a little scrubby from the dollar store, and attached it around the filter, and that works really well to get rid of the water current. And I actually have three, I have to remember here. I have three filters in this tank. So I have a giant sponge filter over here in the back, then the UV filter, and then there's an overhang filter, and well, technically I guess I do have 4 filters, because the sweet potato is acting as one too, because it helps get rid of nitrates. It's excellent. And I grew that from a potato that I got from the store that I was having a really hard time growing, because they treat their sweet potatoes before they're sent to the store to prevent them from rooting. And I found the best way to get it to root eventually was to just leave it alone. And it did. I scrubbed it too, and I left it alone and gave it sunlight and water eventually, and it just took off. And it's massive. It's just a massive sweet potato. So yes, I would say that axolotls actually need a water current, and it's an unpopular opinion. But I haven't seen where I haven't seen where they don't enjoy it. I've seen where they seem to just get like in a slump if they don't have any sort of natural ambience going on in their tank. I mean, even in Lake Xochimilco, it has a bit of current. I mean, it's water. It gets moved by the air, by the wind. So that is another misconception. And I think the only other thing I have to say is that that this is another misconception, is that this is an easy animal to take care of. It's really not. What are you doing, Spaghetti? Nomi is just sneaking up on his shoulder. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, I lost my train of thought here. Oh, okay, so I was speaking about, I was going on to talk about how the difficulty level of this creature, it's difficult and easy. It's difficult in the regard of keeping the water temperature down. If you have a chiller, you're going to have consistent low temperatures. If you use ice bottles, you're going to have to constantly monitor that. That's fine if you can keep up with that. If you provide a fan and that's providing enough coolant, then that's great too. But this animal isn't easy to take care of. It's not a beginner animal. It's an animal that's going to live at least 10 years if cared properly. Some live longer than that, some live less than that. It's an animal that really needs a lot of attention, and I have to constantly clean this tank. As far as spot cleaning, water changes, no, because I've got that down to a self-sustaining ecosystem with the plants, the giant sweet potato that's taking over, and regular maintenance spot cleaning. It just drives me nuts. It's so sad to me if I see axolotls that are just living in poop in a tank. I feel so bad for them. They need to, I mean, what animal wants to live in their own poop? A human definitely doesn't. I mean, humans have a problem going into porta potties, for example, because we know how disturbing it is. And these animals, as I said, are intelligent. They know that too. And they're happy. They enjoy cleanliness just as we do. So I am constantly spot cleaning, and I will use their waste to fertilize my house plants and my plant collections and everything. And I can even use their waste to help promote the growth in this tank. But it's really important to spot clean because, I mean, they're such messy little guys. Look at their food dish. That has to be cleaned out constantly, and they've kicked a bunch of sand into their little ramen noodle cup. They need their home constantly spot cleaned, and it's really important not to get behind on that so that they're happy and thriving. And so as far as like another misconception that this is an easy animal or that this is like a good animal to have as a pet, yes, definitely an animal that's wonderful to have a pet and definitely highly recommended, but you're going to have to be willing to keep up with them. They're like human babies. They need constant maintenance. And I look at it like a human baby. If you treat this little creature like a human baby and you're constantly babying them and taking really good care of them and everything, they're going to thrive. And there will be mishaps. There'll be, like, you might not know what happened with your axolotl. The water perimeters are fine, and their feeding schedule has been fine, but then something might go haywire and that affects them, and then they have to go to the vet, or they have to suddenly be taken out and treated for bacterial infections and things like that. And it happens. And new axolotl people that get an axolotl for the first time, there's always going to be something that's a learning curve, and there may be disasters, or maybe there won't be any disasters. But if you are passionate about this creature and you want to have this creature, I think Lofty's up there. Yeah, Lofty's up there, just floating. If you want to have this creature as a pet, then learn everything you can and think about investing into a chiller. They're on the pricier end. I see a lot of YouTubers that can invest. They have the means to invest into like a good camera and like equipment and everything, lighting for their videos. Well, if you can afford that, invest into a chiller for your axolotls. They will adore it. They will love it. They'll be so happy. I just can't stress enough how happy they are. And these three little guys, I really just wanted to showcase their growth as they get older, because they're so young and they're already huge. Lofty and Nomi Spaghetti here actually have two other siblings that I got from their breeder, and they are so beautiful. And no, I actually have three. Excuse me. I actually have three others from the breeder, and they're so beautiful, and they were so well cared for by their breeder. And I chose to house these three together and just showcase. I'm hoping that I can make a lot of videos about all of my axolotls. It would just be fun, and with the pandemic and everything that happened, it got really stressful and lonely, just isolating and like between work and everything. It was just so stressful, and I figured, like, well, maybe it would be fun to just make some videos. I got a little bit of time on my hands. I could make some videos for people, and I got requests for care, how to care for them and everything. So yeah, I want to wrap this video up now. Thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and if you enjoy my content, then I will definitely be posting more. So thank you. Bye bye.